All right, you guys, welcome back to the DM and Friends. I am DM Angelo, and today we're going to be rolling right along on the Weird Gear Chronicles. This series has been so much fun. Today last week we talked about one of the lightest things, which was feathers, right? The use of feathers in the dungeon crawl. Well, in this one, we're going to be talking about one of the heavier things, even though this isn't heavy, and this is the only thing I could find in my garage. I couldn't find my crowbar, but we're talking about the crowbar today. And we're talking about brute force, mechanical advantage, and pure iron. The crowbar, one of the best tools out there. I have had players carry this thing everywhere. One in particular that I knew he had it on his character sheet every time. But over the years, I've had a lot of players that grab a cold piece of iron and put it on their character sheet, and it's a crowbar. So, and now you look at the modern 5th edition or Pathfinder sheet. A crowbar is just a piece of background fluff, right? If a modern player comes across a lock chest or a stuck stone door, they look at the rogue and say, okay, roll thieves' tools, right? Or wizard cast knock or something like that. Well, what if you don't have that? In the old school, in classic advanced Dungeons and Dragons or all those BX, all that, you didn't always have a spell, right? Your thief open locks percentage is probably abysmally low, right? So let's talk today about why this heavy black piece of black iron is the ultimate tool in forcing the dungeon to play to your rules. So let's look at the history of how we used to handle obstacles in the old days, right? So in early AD&D, dungeons weren't built very fair, right? I've talked about this. Doors weren't just unlocked wooden doors, right? They were swollen, rusted iron, bronze doors, barred on other side, or magically sealed, right? So let's be honest about every early level thieves, right? Your chance to pick a lock, right? Back in the 80s was like 15 to 20%, right? Unless you had really high decks or something like that. If you relied entirely on dice rolls to get through the doors, your campaign was going to end in the very first hallway, right? And a lot of those locked doors, so even if you unlocked it, they were stuck. So the crowbar became absolutely mandatory because it replaced that risky dice roll with guaranteed mechanical physics, right? This is the classic shift in mindset that I've always kind of been preaching about here on the channel. Player skill over character stats and character skill, if you want to call it that. Instead of standing in front of a heavy cotton wooden door, wooden lid or door, rolling a d20 and letting the bad roll stop the adventure, the old school party used leverage, right? I don't even require rolls on that kind of stuff. A crowbar let a low strength character exert tons of force on a hinge or a latch, right? You weren't out finessed by the dungeon designer. You were out working them. You were telling the DM things like, I don't really care what the lock mechanism says. The wood around it is given away, right? So anyways, all right. So practical use of a crowbar, and I came up with 4 ways. And then I got a bunch of comments too, which I want to read those off too. But I'll talk about the 4 ways I came up with, or I've seen not I came up with, that I've seen my players do, and I've done as a player myself. So obviously forcing swollen dungeon doors, right? We all know that every single door in a dungeon is, you have to have a roll to open it, right? Or and if it's stuck, then you got to take your crowbar. Even though this one probably wouldn't work very well. So that's the first the way I've seen it, right? Toppling statues and pillars, right? So you find this kind of a suspicious altar. Way to topple it is using leverage, right? So what about prying up stone floor tiles, right? I've seen that happen in the game. So you get under it and easily can lift it with a crowbar. I mean, we all know, we've all used crowbars. So how about lifting heavy gates? And, that's another way I've seen them being used before in my games. So those are the 4 ways I came up. Let me go to the comments. I have my little tablet here. So RM Sylvia whose dog in our campaign. He says they can be used for climbing, reaching, or a makeshift grapple. Awesome. I mean, that's one way I didn't really even think of. I don't think I've seen a player use that. Thomas Stockman CRA says, and he did quite a few comments here, useful as a backup weapon. I mean, yeah, how would you handle that damage wise and proficiency wise? A club, maybe something more. He also states that it could be blunt damage or piercing damage, right? So if you have a pointed end on it, it could be used as a stabbing tool. And he says same as a metal club. Let me see, stabbing. Yeah, so stabbing. Okay, and Vir Kanath calls it the fighter's lockpick. Right. Combine the crowbar and hammer to wedge the bar and pry open many things. Doors, chests. Also good for a mimic testing by giving something a good whack. Right. I like that. Thomas also says absolute must for dungeons, and not just 1, 3 to 5 foot. Thinner and smaller models are just useful for fine work. Anything heavy that requires leverage, use both ends are used. Wedge tip for driving in, and the bevel tip for prying. Perfect. JJ Lom says, as level progresses, characters usually get better and better gear, but a good cold iron crowbar will still work against certain devil and demon types. Didn't even think of this. As well as some of the Fae. Makes a great blunt weapon for a thief too. Skeletons. Blunt weapon against a skeleton. Thomas also comes back and says, can function as a handle of any sort, or torsion construction with rope or to bend bars, for example. Also, these are conductors. Combined with the chain, they can be used to ground current electrical threads. Further, any broken length of wood will be placed with a crowbar lashed into place. And then he also says, sorry for spamming. Given the thickness and strength of metal, used as a makeshift anchor point for rope and chain is practical. Driving into wood or between solid stone fixtures is also a possible gap in the floor, for example, and using that as an anchor point for and if you don't have a grappling hook. So a lot of different uses for the crowbar. It could be a weapon. It could be a prying tool. A backup weapon is huge, and I didn't even think about that with devils and demons. Cold iron. So what about the logistics? And I talked about this on a lot of my last videos, right? So, this is a DM and Friends, right? And I do kind of, there's always a catch, right? And the DM and Friends is a catch. A crowbar is heavy and it is incredibly loud, right? So The thing weighs about 5 pounds, solid iron. One of the books gives the actual encumbrance stats for it, and I should have looked up that. Maybe I'll put it in the notes. It takes up real space in your pack, and it's heavy. And when you use it to splinter wood or to pop a metal latch, it goes crack. That sound will echo down the hall, the stone corridors. It'll totally do that. And in a old school dungeon, making noise, right, is the exact same thing as ringing the dinner bell in the dungeon. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Do I take the time? And obviously also it takes time, so that's time pressure too. So you ask yourself, do you take time and risk the thief failing a lock pick? Or do we just pull it off and make a crap ton of noise in the dungeon and, here comes everybody. So, it really depends. Is there decision pressure, that you have? It's the heart of old school gaming is what do I do? Not I have a skill for that. What are we going to do with and it's player skill, like putting your head together and figuring it out. So, the Crowbar perfectly sums up, like a lot of these things I've been talking about, this entire series. It's a tool that forces you to think about the physical reality of the world the DM is describing, right? And brings up a lot of choices. It proves that you don't need, it proves that you don't need a high-level magical spell to overcome, some physical obstacles, telekinesis or things like that, moving stuff, sometimes you just need a heavy piece of metal. It just isn't. And a solid grip and a little bit of leverage and a little bit of ingenuity and thought in it. So the next time you're setting up your character list, your character sheet, and you flip it over and you want to put some items in there, whether you're old school AD&D or even a modern campaign, spend the gold. Spend the gold, pack the Crowbar. Stop relying entirely on the character sheet and solve your problems and start using your tools for survival. Your DM is going to love the creativity. I love it when my players get super creative with stuff, grease bombs and using flour and this and that. It's awesome. I love it. So next week, next video, you guys, I'm gonna be diving into the use of flour in as a piece of weird gear. I've seen parties take flour with them in the dungeon. So we're going to talk about that low-tech device too. So I think it'd be really cool. So stay tuned for that. And you guys, this has been an absolute blast of a series. I love all the comments that you guys are doing in the back and forth, and I feel like, man, the stories you guys are telling me and it's resonating with a lot of people. So I really thank you for that. I'd love to hear it in the comments. The last time you used a Crowbar in your campaign, or if you're a DM, like when's the last time you've seen your players use a Crowbar in the dungeon, and what were the results? All right, you guys, if you're enjoying the Weird Gear Chronicles, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Share it with the rest of your group at the table. And if you're watching on mobile, hit the hype button. Hype button is a new thing, and I don't quite understand it, but hit that hype button too. So, as always, I am DM Angelo. And this is the DM and Friends. I love Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I love you guys. And take care of yourself. Be good. Keep gaming. And bye-bye.